Hello, my dreamers and believers. It's your girl Latina Raven, and this show is called On the Way to Famous. On this show, we bring the artists back to humble beginnings and we follow their journey from dream to reality and all the struggles in between. So now this week, okay, I have a special guest. He has opened up for artists such as Jay-Z, Color Me Bad, Aaron Carter, Old Town. He's even shared the stage with the likes of TKA, George Lamont, and Judy Torres. Now, he's actually a voting member of the Recording Academy. He'll explain what that is, okay? And he has a song out called Honeymoon Night, which I totally love. Welcome to my show, Roger Ortega. Say
Thank
hi.
you. Hi. Thank you for having me. I'm super excited to be here. So thank you.
Of course. So now we got to bring you back to your adolescent years and you got to tell everybody what little Roger was like and where you grew up and all of that.
All right. So I guess if we're gonna go back to the adolescent years, let's get past the pimples and puberty, go back a little further.
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
so I was born in Topeka, Kansas. And I was born into a musical family. My dad had a band with my uncles, and so I would go to bed every night listening to all sorts of music. They played everything from Tejano music, which is Tex-Mex, to country, to R&B, to funk, to pop, and I mean, it was great. They still play today. Unfortunately, my dad passed away in 2016, but my uncles still play, and they were a big part of getting me started on this journey. Um, we just and feel free to cut me off at any time if you have any questions or anything like that, because
Yeah, no, go ahead.
like my boy Law, I can talk. Maybe not as much as Law, maybe not as much as Law, but I can talk. So I'd always wanted to do it since I was a kid, and at night I would go to bed singing into my pillow because I didn't want anybody to hear me. I didn't want, like, as a child you're insecure, and I suppose too, as an adult you're just as insecure. You just learn how to navigate through that a little bit. But my dad being a musician and my uncles being there, they were like my heroes, my rock stars. I was scared, what if I wasn't good enough? You
Right.
know, I didn't want them to hear me and tell me, oh, you need to stop. That looking back, they would never in a million years do that. In fact, it was just the opposite. They encouraged it. But I would go to bed singing Michael Jackson. I would sing George Michael. That was my number one. George Michael was my number one.
Yeah.
Uh, Richard Marx. Those, Richard Marx influenced me big time as a balladeer, and we can talk about that later
Mm-hmm.
when we get to my latest single.
Yeah.
So I did that, and eventually I told my music teacher. That was the very first person I told that I wanted to be a singer. I'll never forget walking into class, nervous as heck, and I was in sixth grade, maybe fifth, and she, no, maybe seventh, either, it doesn't matter. Um, she was asking us questions and we wrote things down, and I wrote I wanted to be a singer, when I grew up. And she pulled me aside and she says, that's great. If you want to, I know someone who can help you. He's got a recording studio, all that fun stuff. So if you want to record something here, just like on a tape recorder, I can give it to him and get his thoughts. And I was super excited about that. So I sang some solo choir type thing, probably not very well, but I sang it, and I just waited and waited to hear this guy's feedback, because this guy was kind of a local legend. And he said he has a good voice, he's just starting out, but he needs a style. And at the time I didn't know what that meant. I was like, a style? And she told me, she's like Michael Jackson has a style, and I'm like nodding, like, yeah, I know what you're talking about. I had no clue what she was talking about. And I don't know that I was singing enough at that point. I definitely wasn't, to develop a style. And I don't think I really developed my style of singing until maybe after the first album that came out in 2012 is when I really kind of started honing that. But we haven't gotten there yet.
Yeah.
Needless to say, I was a little bit crushed because he did nothing with me. And the next thing I did was we used to have like, we have an amusement park called Worlds of Fun in Kansas. And they used to have like this little karaoke booth. Remember when you can go in and make videos at like places and
Yeah.
stuff like that? Well, they didn't have the videos at that point, but they had the karaoke things. And I went in and I recorded La Bamba because I loved that song. I love that song, and that is my number one favorite movie. Right next to Three Amigos. They're like right there. I know I'm dating all of us right now. I'm
Oh
dating
my
us.
God. I love the Three Amigos. Yep. Okay. All right.
Seriously, but I
We
love
gotta
it.
do it. We gotta do it.
Yeah. That's right.
I go.
I love that you remember that.
Yeah, I love that movie.
Yeah, so I held on to that little tape of me singing La Bamba, and I was hesitant to give it to my dad. Now, like I said, I'm seventh grade, and I actually had a solo real quick. Going back to the music class, I said after I told my teacher I want to be a singer, she gave me a solo, and I didn't tell my mom or dad that I was singing this solo at this like school PTO meeting or anything like that, because I didn't want to be crushed. I was scared. What if they didn't like it? What if I was no good? And I did. And I remember my dad being really disappointed when I told him, you didn't even come to see me sing tonight, And he's like, I didn't know you were singing tonight.
Yeah.
And he was really disappointed. But back to the La Bamba demo, I gave it to my dad and I went to bed. And then a couple days later, he came to me and he goes, hey, the band wants to know if you want to sing La Bamba, when we play next week. And I was like, yeah. And so he had let my uncles hear it. And my uncle Steve, who is like the youngest of the brothers, was the one that really kind of took to me, helping to groom me into the music industry and along the musical path. And so I did. I sang La Bamba very poorly, but I did. And that became my thing. If I was there at any of their dances, anything they played for, I was doing La Bamba. And it was cool. It was cool.
Yeah, but you was this cute little kid singing it, so whether it sounded good or not, it was still amazing.
Yeah, I guess it's funny you say that, because that's kind of, I always say that about this next part of my journey. I'm getting ready. I think I'm in eighth grade. I think I'm in the end of eighth grade or something like that. And I get up to go to school, and 6 o'clock in the morning, I turn on MTV, and who do I see? Five guys from Boston doing the right stuff. And I was mesmerized. I was like, wait, who are these guys? These white guys, they can dance. They're like, and Jordan was the coolest thing to me walking the face of the earth. When I saw him, the way he moved and how smooth he was and all that, how he's just got that, that suaveness about him.
Yep, and we're talking about New Kids on the Block, by the way.
What's that? Yes. For those that don't know, we're talking about New Kids on the Block. And so I was like, maybe that's what I want to do. Maybe I should start a group, because I was too terrified to try and be a singer by myself. Maybe I could drag a cousin or, two into this with me, or a friend. And so it turns out that my cousin actually liked the New Kids too. One night, morning we were talking, and so we would go, instead of like going outside after school, we would go into my grandma's basement where my dad's band and everyone had all their equipment set up. And we would just listen to like New Kids stuff and make up little dances to New Kids, TKA, George Lamond, all these different like styles of music or types of artists. And we were always like, if the band ever plays this song during their intermission, we should do this dance on the dance floor. So we started, combining stuff. And then at the time, we couldn't find instrumentals for a lot of stuff. And there was this thing called the Topeka Mexican Fiesta. And one of my uncles on the other side of my family, my mom's side, was in charge of it. And I said, hey, would it be cool if we performed a few songs at the fiesta? And he thought it was great. Again, 14-year-old kids, terrible, but doing something positive, and so we recruited another friend, and we went up, and I don't know how many New Kids songs we did. We did several New Kids songs, everything from Valentine Girl to Step by Step, and I think Step by Step might have been the next year. I don't remember, but it was no, that was 90. So then we'd done this a couple years later, because we did the fiesta 2 or 3 years in a row. And
Mhm.
so anyway, but we definitely did several New Kids songs. And it was really cool. It was really cool to be up there and to do what we were doing. And I just fell in love with it. We were bitten by the bug.
Yeah.
And so eventually, a couple weeks after that performance, we kicked out the third member, and it was just my cousin and I. And we started performing during my dad's intermissions. And slowly, but surely, started gaining a little following. And then we added a couple more members, and then I was like, this is what I want to do. This is it. There's nothing else that I want to do. And my cousin wasn't as serious about it. So he left the group and we rotated members again until we had our core group, our core four. And now we're in the 90s and we're going through the a cappella stage, and which I always called our puberty, because it was like we were not good singers. We were getting there, but we were polishing and honing our craft. And we had to go through this awkward stage of singing and trying to harmonize and understand what that meant. And so we did that. And we eventually became better. And then when, we started winning talent shows, and we started, performing all over and making money and doing what you're supposed to do on the way up, on the way to famous.
Yeah.
And it was a really cool journey. We would have like a show on a Saturday night, but if there was a talent show, like within like an hour or two, we knew we would win. So we would go out of our way, win some money, and then go to the show and perform. And it was fun. It was a great time to be a teenager for us, and it was uh, it was cool to watch how music would evolve too, because we went from the 80s and all of that to like the really good R&B, the 90s, and R&B, which was just
Preach.
and you also had, thanks to New Kids on the Block, you had the growth of male pop groups. And so the group that became my number one after New Kids was Color Me Bad. And Color Me Bad they had a song on their first album called Slow Motion. And when we were trying to think of a name for our group, because we changed it because we changed members, one of the guys said, "What about slow motion?" I'm like, "Well, what does it mean?" And we're like, "I don't know. It can mean whatever we want it to mean, and it doesn't have to mean anything at all. We just like the way it looked." And so I was like, okay, but what if we meet Color Me Bad someday and they don't like us and they sue us for taking their name, And because we were also a multicultural group, it was myself being Mexican. We had two Black guys and a white guy. And, very similar to All for One, actually.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
who are also eventually became good friends of mine. But so we went on, and we're doing talent shows and blah blah blah. One night we were rehearsing, and we got a call from one of the guy's girlfriends that, "Hey, Color Me Bad's doing a free concert in Kansas City," which is about 45 minutes from where we were at the time. So we stopped practicing. We got to go try to meet him. We got to try to meet him. So we went up there, and we were in the back of the line. By the time we got there, the line was huge. And so we devised this plan that, okay, listen, we'll all spread out, talk to girls, tell them we're in a group, right? So, and then we'll sing for them. And when they're clapping, we'll move up a little bit. And so we did until we got to the front of the line. And we had our little demos in our pockets, our business cards and everything. We got in, and Color Me Bad came out, and it was just magic to me. I had seen them in concert before from afar when they were with Paula Abdul, and I have a funny story about that too. But this time they were like 7 feet away from us, and I'm like, man, these guys are just as tall as I am. Some of them were, like KT and Mark are about as short as me, but Brian and Sam were pretty tall. Anyway, so we like handed them our business cards, tried to, from the stage, like and Brian was cool. Brian took it, put it in his pocket, kept, singing and moving on. So as soon as they were done, I was like, guys, we got to find them. I don't know if like artists hang out and watch the rest of the show or if they go back to their hotel or whatever, but we need to go outside and find them in case they're leaving. So we all went to 4 different corners of this block. Finally, we found the limo, and we see the guys walking up. And I always say this was like, it was like watching these guys step up in slow motion. If I had hair, I would do it. I would, because it just looked like the hair was, yeah, exactly. I was like, holy shit, these guys are the coolest thing ever. And so they walk up and they get against their limo. And we're like, hey, what's up, fellas? Great job. And they're really nice, really humble guys. And so we're all just kind of awkwardly looking at each other. Nobody said anything. And I'm like, so we're a group. And Sam was like, yeah, I kind of figured that. And we're like, can we sing for you? And they were like, sure, go ahead. So we sang a song that we'd written, and we did it a cappella. And I remember them leaning against the limo. And then when we started singing, they were all like, and it was like, oh my God, they're into this. So afterwards, they were like, so do you guys have management or what's going on with you guys? I'm like, we don't. And they were like, okay, well, what's your name? And we were, I was scared. Yeah. So I said slow motion. And they looked at each other and they were like, that's cool. That's really cool. So we exchanged numbers and we took off and we get to a gas station like on cloud nine. We can't believe we just sang for our idols. And Billy gets one of the guys in the group gets a pager, like a notification. So we run to the we were at a gas station, went to the payphone, and we call it, and it's Brian, the lead singer of Color Me Bad, and he sings some riff, and then he's like, hey, y'all are fresh. I don't know if you guys have management or not, but we definitely want to work with you and help you out. And so I'm like, what? This is crazy. So a couple days later, KT, one of the guys in the group, called us, and he's like, hey, we're going to be in Wichita, which is about 3 hours from where we were. And if you guys want to come up and watch the show, you're more than welcome to be our guests. And we were like, heck yeah. So we went out there and hung out with them all day. And so they were like, where do you guys want to sit? And I'm like, I don't care. What do you mean? They're like, well, you can sit in the audience or you can stand off to the side of the stage, or you can stand behind the drummer if you want and watch the show from back there. And I'm like, I want to see what it looks like, what it feels like, and what it looks like to see all those people.
Yeah.
So I'm standing back there and we're watching them. They do this song called Sexual Capacity, which was on the Striptease soundtrack for Demi Moore back in the day. And it was actually written by Robin Thicke, a very young Robin Thicke.
Wow.
So we're watching them do that song. And then they start telling their story about how they became famous and how they got a break. And Brian was like, so, we got a break once. And so we're going to give a break to someone else. Ladies and gentlemen, slow motion. And we're like, that's us. That's us. What are we going to do? I don't know. Do right in the wrong way. I don't know. So we go out there and we're like, we walk. I mean, this is all like frantic, but we walk out. We're trying to be cool or whatever. And we started singing, and it was the response from the crowd was amazing. And it was something I'll never forget. Girls were reaching up to us, have no idea who the hell we were. They didn't know that we were all going back to jobs the next day and all that. But,
so hold on, I'm gonna pin it right there. So I want you to describe for everyone that's gonna watch this the internal feelings and stuff that you was having as you were walking to that stage and you see the thousands of beautiful faces and you guys didn't even have a clue as to what you were gonna sing. How did y'all come to figure out what you was gonna do?
I mean, it only took, we'd been together several years at that point. It only took one of us to say the word and we knew what song we were going to do. As soon as someone said right in the wrong way, okay, that's it. That's the one we're doing. And walking out there, I just came like, I'm just thinking, don't fuck up. Don't fuck up. Don't fuck up. Sorry to drop the.
No, this is you.
And so, but I'm like in disbelief. And I'm looking around. I'm waiting to hear the pitch that we're going to start singing, in, and it happens. We get the pitch, we count in. There's a right and a wrong way to love somebody, and all harmonized, and the place went nuts. And once that happened, the nerves stopped, and it was just like, wow, we can do this. We can do this. And so I just remember just being in disbelief that these people were reacting this way to us and that we were on stage and that our boys, our idols, not yet our boys, are back there. And it was one of the most surreal, coolest days as a musician in my life, because also earlier in that day, Mark, the Mexican guy in the group, Mark Calderon, who's out doing stuff now as Color Me Bad. He's playing the guitar or whatever. And he's like, man, he goes, can I hear something that you guys wrote? And we sang this song that I wrote called Love Me, Don't Leave Me, which is a beautiful, sad ballad. And he just put his guitar down and he was like, guys, that's a hit. And it was just like to hear that, you know, from somebody that we truly respected, that had already had several hits themselves, you know. It was just an amazing day. And so after that, we stayed in close contact with the guys, and we went out and did several shows with them. And one of the guys would always, they lived in Oklahoma at the time. One of them would drive up to our place in Kansas and would help us out with our choreography and our harmonies. And we would write songs and we would record stuff at home. And it was just an amazing time that I couldn't believe this stuff was happening to me.
Oh my God, but like after that, did you guys get signed with them? Did you get management? Like, tell us about the business side of it.
Yeah, so we ended up not signing with them. They decided that they didn't want to be management at that time. And we're still doing talent shows. And we did a talent show for a record label that had some decent exposure in the 90s. They were called Spoiled Rotten. And I want to say Case was on that. They had a few artists that had some hits. And we won the talent show. We met our manager or future manager at that show. And he's like, I have some other labels I want you guys to meet with. And so we drove up to New York a couple times, and we flew a couple times to meet with, who did we meet with? Big time labels. I can't think of their. I know one of them was Interscope. One of them, what was Whitney Houston on? Whatever label she was on, with Clyde. I can't remember. And two other ones. And we didn't get anything from any of them actually, except for Interscope. And Interscope was like, okay, hey, you know, we want to sign you guys. And so we got a production deal. We moved out to New Jersey from Kansas. And it was pretty crazy. We got up there, and just at that moment, though, Universal had bought out everybody, and Interscope was one of them. So we were stuck in this contract. They wouldn't do anything with us, but they wouldn't release us either. And at the time, Jive had just signed the Backstreet Boys. And so they were looking for another pop group. So we got a meeting with them. We sang for them. They were like, okay, this is going to work. This is what we're going to do. We're going to sign you guys. But we had to get out of our other contract. And that contract took around 7 or 8 months for us to get out of. By the time we got out of that contract, we went back to Jive, and they were like, well, we just signed a group NSYNC. So we're going to work with them. You know, we knew who NSYNC was because they already had their hit album out, was already out. The first one, I think it was on RCA. Then they ended up at Jive. And so we didn't get the Jive deal. And so we were heartbroken. Yeah. And I think I was 24 at the time. And I was like, we tried for another year or so. And I was like, guys, I'm too old for this. Like, this is a young man's game. Like, I'm done. I was defeated, you know, and for years I wouldn't, I would say a couple of years, I wouldn't listen to the radio. I wouldn't watch videos. Like I didn't want anything to do with music. Right. But I just kept writing, you know, me and one of the guys in the group, we stayed out there in New Jersey. One guy moved back to Kansas, and I didn't want anything to do with it. I just wanted to write just to do it. And so kept writing, went through changes in like employment and everything. I became a real estate agent, and I met this guy, this kid, God rest his soul. He was just a kid, died a few years ago of brain cancer. But he was like, he was out of my apartment, our apartment, my wife and I. And he was like, so you used to do music? And I was like, yeah. He's like, let me hear what you got. And so I played him some of the older stuff, you know, and he goes, well, what do you do now? And I played him some of my newer stuff. And he was like, man, he goes, I know some guys that have a studio and a label. He's like, maybe you can come talk to them. And I was like, oh man, no, I'm done, man. I'm too old for that. And he's like, all right. Well, he goes, but let me know, man, because I think you should. And I was like, no, I'm good. So he hounded me for a long time. And finally, I was like, you know what? Let me give it a shot. Let's just go see what's the worst that could happen.
Yeah.
So I went and I met with this little label called Menikeys Records in they were in Union City, New Jersey. Where are you located?
I'm in the Bronx.
Oh, okay, you're out there. All right, what's up?
What's up?
And so went out there, met with the guys, the owner George and his partner, and played them some stuff. And the partner was like, "Bro, do you realize you're sitting on a gold mine?" And I'll never forget. I said, "You know, my wife says that, but I think she's supposed to say that." He goes, "No, man, you're a really good writer." He goes, because we want to sign you as a writer if you don't mind writing for our artists." And I was like, all right, that works for me, you know, hence R&B pop writer on everything, you know.
Yeah.
And so I started writing for their artists. And then around 2011, I think it was, I put out this little video of me on YouTube. So it's so cringy now. I have my sunglasses on and this fedora and a button up in my living room. I mean, not put together at all. Not that I ever really am, but I just watch it, and I sang this song that I wrote called Step, and Step became very popular eventually with my fan base. But I sang it, and these guys saw it, and they were like, you should think about being an artist. And I was like, no, 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 no. I'm past that. I'm happy writing. And they were like, there's a market out there for you. They were like, this age that you're at, this demographic, they don't want to turn the age yet to admit they're old. So they can relate to you, and we think you should do an album. I was like, no, no, no. So I told him no for like 2 or 3 months. I was like, no, I'm good. And finally, I thought, this is why I moved out here, like to make an album, to be an artist. Like, let's just put it out there. You know what? I was scared people were going to laugh at me, and I'm sure there were people that laughed at me and still laugh at me, and that's okay because I laughed all the way to the bank.
That's right. You tell them, you tell them, you tell them.
Yeah, so it was like finally I was like, okay, let's do it. And I had gotten in touch with a guy that I used to work. When we first moved out there, when things fell apart to New York, New Jersey, we worked at a call center, and I met this guy named Gerald Trotman, and this kid was just super talented, one of the most talented people I'd ever met, and became one of the most talented people I've ever knew. And he's still to this day. When you talk about who's the most talented person, it's Gerald Trotman. And so we became friends. We did a couple songs with him. And when I decided I was going to make this album, I saw him still doing stuff and producing on Facebook. So I reached out to him and I said, hey, man, blah, blah, blah. Would you mind helping me? He's like, I'm in, bro. Let's do it. So we got to work on my first album. And looking back, that album, which is called R&B Pop Writer, the production was not there. It was not there. My vocals were not there. The songs were there. And I think that's what drove that album. I wasn't that great of a singer. And again, we were just coming up, on the way to famous. And so we put that album out off the Menikeys label. And that album hit number 62 on iTunes. And I couldn't believe it. I could not believe it. And I had a career. And so I immediately thinking, okay, I've got to give my fans better. I've got to give them better because I love that album and I'm proud of it. But there are things where I'm like, I would do this so much differently now, knowing the industry and knowing production value and everything. So I went to work on the second album immediately. And the owner of the label that I was with, unfortunately, had leukemia. So he was sick a lot, and I would get a lot of sessions canceled at the studio with him. And he unfortunately eventually passed away. The sweetest guy, one of the sweetest guys you'd ever meet. And he passed away, and the label folded, and my songs went into legal, and I never got them back. But Everything Happens for a Reason. And those songs were not good enough for the second album, looking back. They just weren't. Put out a couple singles through the years, and between 2012 and 2014, or 2016. But in 2014, 2015, I started writing an album, and not writing an album, I was writing a collective, just writing songs. And eventually I looked at it and I'm like, these things go together so well. And I wrote this song called The Lottery, and that song was on the album, and everything I was writing was so good. And I remember telling my wife, I'm like, I want to put this second album out, but I'm scared. What if it doesn't do as good as the first one, you know?
Right.
And I said, I don't know what to call it. And she is like, well, what does it mean to you? You know? And I was like, I mean, this song is about love, or this album is about love. It's about my life and how happy I am. But also, I found out my dad had cancer. So I started going through these up and downs. But I also felt like I won the lottery with the album coming out and doing so well, the first one, R&B Pop Writer, and with my wife and the family. And I felt like I've always had kind of a privileged life in a way, not money, but privileged in a way of love. Like
Right.
I was always supported by my family, and I've had a good life. I've had a great life. I wouldn't change it for anything. And I felt like I hit the lottery. Like God gave me this life and said, okay, do something with it. And so I thought, my wife actually came up with the idea for the album being called The Lottery. I lost my dad. I stopped writing on The Lottery for a little bit because I just wasn't inspired.
Yeah.
And then I lost my dad. And then I remember literally writing 3 songs on the plane ride home from his funeral. And those songs are still some of my favorite. In fact, one of them opens up the album. It's called Worst Hangover. And though that song is about, like, it's about losing someone, on the surface, it's really about, it's like about me losing a girl, you know, and losing that love. But really where that hurt was coming from was losing my dad, you know, like when you lose someone, that's the worst hangover you
Yeah.
can ever have. You know, you're kind of in a fog when someone breaks up with you or someone dies. It's like a hangover, sometimes with a headache, depending on how much you cry, you know.
Yeah.
That album came together really nicely, and it went on to hit number 8 on iTunes, and things were just going great. Things were going great. And I was like, you know what? I'm done. I'm good. I've had 2 successful albums. I'm going to work these albums, do my shows. And we went on, and God, I'm just pushed it. And then my manager, I don't know if you know Katrina Hertz of Kick Up Your Heels Entertainment.
No.
I met her, funny enough, I'd spoken to her on Twitter back in 2013, 2014, but we met because I was doing a show in Miami before the New Kids cruise.
Uh,
And she was there she managed the Funky Bunch at that time. And so we met there, and we just became friends, and she was advising from afar, you know, because I had other management at this point. And then I brought her onto my team, and then we found out this other manager was doing some really shady stuff. So I fired him, and she became my manager, and now she's like my sister. But anyway, she reached out to me. She goes, hey, we're going to submit you for the Recording Academy. And I was like, what do you mean? She's like, well, you can be a member of the a member of the Recording Academy, and you can do things like vote for the Grammys, go to the Grammys, blah, blah, blah. You get invited to that stuff.
mhm.
And so I was like, okay, what do I need to do? And so I did all the paperwork and sent everything they needed. And it's based on, at the time, it might be different now. It's based on, you get in based on record sales, performance attendance, and songwriting credits. And so luckily I had enough, and they accepted me into the Recording Academy. And so
That
every
is
year
amazing.
I get to vote for the Grammys, which is pretty cool.
Okay. So it's your fault. No, I'm kidding.
Yes, yes. So I don't always do so well.
Yeah,
The first
we
year
gotta
though,
talk. We gotta talk.
the first year I did it, everybody I voted for won, and it was awesome. After that, I started. I don't know, music changed. I started like missing, like I was losing a lot of. I was like, man, oh, what, that one, okay. But I also see that it's also a popularity contest driven by money, and politics. It really is. It really is.
Now,
There's really talented people that will never see the stage, just because they don't have the money behind them, or they're not, dare I say, kissing enough arse, you know.
yeah.
Um, and it's tough. It definitely left a little bit of a sour taste in my mouth, but I still go out there because I still support the artist, and teach his own. Um,
So
that's Go
so
ahead.
looking back a little bit, what would you say to someone now, or maybe what would you say to the younger version of yourself, how this was gonna turn out, and what kind of advice would you have if they're trying to make it in this day and age?
Well, I would go back and tell me to not stop. Don't walk away, because you can walk away, and you know the saying, like you can take the boy out of Kansas, but you can't take Kansas out of the boy. Well, it's the same with music. You can take someone out of music, but you can't take the music out of them.
Mhm.
And that's always been my heart and soul. And it's now it's defined a lot of who I am to a lot of people. And so I would say don't stop, just don't give up. It's not a young man's game. Social media leveled the playing field, for a while it did, at least. And that's how I was able to really capitalize on finding a new audience. And I got to say too, though, a good 40% of my audience and my fans were the New Kids on the Block fans. And I'll never forget, like, that first time dealing with that. Can I tell that story? Like,
You sure can.
all right, so like I remember my wife and I were driving back from somewhere. We went on a trip somewhere and we were driving back, and she said, "Oh, hey, Jordan Knight is actually doing a video release party tonight, for his Stingy." Was it Stingy? Yeah, it was Stingy. And I was like, "Oh, that's cool." She's like, "Well, do you want to go?" I'm like, "Well, yeah, I guess. How much are tickets or whatever?" She told me. I was like, "Oh, okay." And I was like, "Well, I guess we're gonna get two of them." And she's like, "Well, I can't leave Tay, my youngest daughter at the time, or my oldest daughter was my only child at the time."
Yeah.
And she's like, I was like, "So I have to go by myself?" She's like, "Yeah, are you okay with that?" I'm like, "Yeah, that's fine." So I went to this theater on 42nd Street. It was a movie theater. I don't know if you were at this or not. Were you there?
It was a good. He came to, what was it? It was
AMC or something?
I believe so. It was that one, and he also came to a club there, 80s
Okay.
club there, and I saw him there too.
Oh, see, I didn't go to that. I didn't even know about that. I didn't even know about that. So I get there and I walk in and I'm standing in this line with just like a ton of women. And I'm clueless. I'm clueless. And so this lady in front of me, God bless her, I can't remember her name now. But I was like, am I in the right place? And I showed her my ticket. She's like, yeah, yeah, yeah. This is how it's gonna work. We're gonna be here, and then we're gonna go up there, and then you can do this. And I'm like, okay. And I'm like, are you here with anyone? And she's like, no, I'm here by myself. She goes, but I see a lot of people that I know. I was like, you know all these people? And she's like, well, from Twitter. She goes, that's so and so. And she's naming the Twitter names, and this is again back in 2011, 2012, something like that, maybe even before. And so I was just starting my music journey. And so I was like, what do you mean? She goes, yeah. She goes, they're at everything. I'm like, what do you mean everything? And she's like, oh, there's always events. The guys are always on Twitter. I'm like, they are? And I'm like, wait, this is all new to me. And so we get in there, and I remember going up the escalator, and we were talking. I was like, I met Jordan once a long time ago. He was doing a show at BB King's with Jeff Timmons. Were you there for that?
No.
Okay, this was when he put out his first album, that was only sold at Walmart. But anyway, I was telling her that, and she's like, have you met any of the other guys? It's like, no. I said, I'd love to meet Donnie though. And she's like, oh, she goes, well, you're going to meet him tonight. I'm like, I am? She goes, yeah, he's here. I'm like, he is? She said, yeah. She goes, he's standing right there. I was like, I didn't know what to do. I'm like, there's Jordan and Donnie, and they're like right there. And she goes, yeah, you're going to take a picture with them. They're taking pictures with everyone. I was like, what? I was like, awesome. So I
You
went up.
you were boy fanning out.
I was so boy, yeah, definitely boy, fanboying, yeah, whatever.
Either way.
I was freaking out, but I was trying to be cool. So I remember I walked up there. I had my little demo in my pocket, and I walked up there, and Donnie's like, "What's up, big guy?" And I was like, "Hey, um, we had small talk, and he was like, "Hey," he goes, "Listen," he goes, "I know you're a big guy." He goes, but our guys are bigger. He goes, so because we have a surprise for everyone under the seats. He goes, so don't look under the seats. And I was like, okay, I had no idea what the fuck he was talking about. I still don't even remember what was under the seats, if there was. I'm sure there was. But I was like, oh, I said, hey, I said, can I give you this? And he's like, oh, he goes, are you a singer, a songwriter? I said, both actually. I was, he's like, all right, cool. And he took my demo and put it in his pocket and gave the dude hugs, and walked into the theater. I'm like, I just gave Donnie Wahlberg my demo. I just met Donnie Wahlberg and Jordan. Like, this is crazy. So I'm sitting there, and Jordan plays the video. They address the crowd. They play the video again. They address the crowd. Jordan sing along with the video. Finally, towards the end, I learned so much from Donnie Wahlberg in that one night, and I mean that. I don't know if you remember this. And if you don't, I know you'll believe it, because this is what Donnie does. But Jordan was singing the song, said, this is the last time through, telling everybody good night. Donnie went through every seat in that movie theater and hugged every single person, seat by seat, row by row. And I'm like, oh, I'm going to get to see him again. And he comes over to me, and I go to give him a hug, and he goes, wait, pulls out my demo, does that with it, puts it back in his pocket, gives me a big hug. Now, I'm like, even if this guy never listens to this demo, that was really cool of him to do, to remember me, to remember that moment. And that, I was like, from that moment on, I was like, this is how you interact with your fans. You make every single person that you come into contact with feel like they're the most important and only person on the planet in that brief moment. And that's what Donnie does, and he does it well. And so I left, and I'm on cloud nine, and I'm walking out, and I think I'm singing something, and people started hearing me in the stairwell. And next thing you know, oh my God, who are you? What do you do? Blah, blah, blah. What's your Twitter? And then my Twitter started growing, and it was like, I mean, I remember like D-Dub's butt cheek and D-Dub's marshmallow. And I was like, this is crazy. Like, okay, I have no idea what anybody looks like, because you all look like Donnie Wahlberg, because that's your profile picture. But thank you for following me. When the album came out, they got behind me. They got behind me, and they helped drive it. Both albums they did. The Lottery album, by then I had taken on a lot more fans, both in the New Kids fandom and on my own. And it was a really cool time. And did a cruise. I did a cruise in 2019 with some of my fans, and which was really cool, because I've also done the New Kids on the Block cruise several times. And it was, I always tell people, like,
how did I miss that? I've been. How did I miss that?
I've been on 3 of them. It was like I was going every other year for a while. It seemed like 2014, 2016, 2018. And then in 2019, I did my cruise. But it was nothing like the New Kids. It was a much, much smaller scale. But I wanted to make, and it was hard, because it's not like I can be off. Like, it's me for 7 days, but my cruise was 7 days. And it's not like I can have Joey, being on the deck doing duets at dusk while I'm taking a nap. It's like on the go. So, but I wanted to make people feel like they were on a vacation too. And so we had a great cruise. The boat literally, and I say this, it made the news and everything. Our boat literally almost tipped over. It was we was the first night we left. We were on the cruise and I felt it kind of rocking, like leaning a little bit. And then I pulled out my camera at one point because things started sliding, and then everything crashed. And like people were sliding across the dance floor. My DJ or our security guard was sliding across the like slid on the floor. Like I mean, there were tables, chairs, glasses, everything. It was crazy. It was the first night, and a lot of my cruisers, it was the first time on a cruise. I'm like, guys, this doesn't happen. It doesn't happen, I promise. But the cruise was awesome, and it was a small group. But then we booked another one for 2020, and that group had quadrupled in size, and we were going to have a nice size group going on this cruise, and I was super excited. And then 2020, at the time in 2020, I was pretty much done with music. Like, not done, but like I didn't have anything to say. I didn't really want to force myself to write anything. I was still doing, I couldn't do shows, obviously. So I just found other things to do. I started a little online show and did that for a while, 2 or 3 years with my friends. So I taught myself to play piano during COVID. I wanted to be productive and I couldn't be out there. And I would host these shows that I was doing just to interact with my fans and keep that rapport going. But I was definitely ready to slow down. And then we decided to move to Kansas from New Jersey. After being out there 23 years, it was time to move home. And I wrote and released my third album called Midwest Charm. And that album didn't fare so well on the iTunes charts because no one uses iTunes anymore. It's all Spotify and all of that, and I wasn't out there doing shows or anything to really push it. This album was really just a love letter to New York, New Jersey, Kansas, and my wife, hence Honeymoon Night. And several songs on that album. Make Naked a Habit. That's a good one. That's a good one. But Back to Kansas was the song that I released and how I announced to everyone that I was moving back to Kansas. And that song, it did really well for me, especially here in the state of Kansas last year. And I was out doing a lot of shows, pushing that song and the album. And all the while preparing for RO Cruise 2. We did it just a few weeks ago and had a great time, went to some beautiful places, and it went so well. This was going to be a make or break cruise because it was a small group. It was a really small group. There were only 11 of us. 4 of them were me and my family. And so I was like, okay, if this doesn't go well, if I don't catch the eyes that I hope I do on social media throughout my cruise, I'm not going to do another cruise. Like, why push it? And man, when I got back from that cruise and when I'm watching the story views and everything, I got more views over those 7 days on a daily, just daily than I had all year long. And so people were definitely interested in the cruise. They enjoyed watching the stories, and now they want to be on it. And so
now I gotta come too.
You're good. Oh, yeah, I hope you do, honey. It's fun. It's not as expensive as the New Kids Cruise either. And it's not as crazy, meaning that, like, you'll get your downtime and you don't have to worry about standing outside of the Lido deck all night, waiting for the guys to come out or whatever. It's just a good time. It's like literally like vacationing with friends, and like, I say in family, but it's friends because they're people that you really want to be with. Sometimes you're stuck with your family.
This is true. This is true.
But this is it's a really cool time. So I actually my cruise guy just called me. He had a meeting Thursday, with the people that we're interested in doing the cruise with next time, the company. And so I think we're going to put in the works. I'm shooting for 2025. And let me tell you why I'm shooting so far in advance.
Tell us what's next. Yes.
So 2025, the reason is it's for you guys, actually, for those that want to go. So yes. So 2025 is when I want to do the cruise because I want to give people time to plan. It's expensive, like cruises, just vacations in general are expensive. So I want to give people time to plan. And there was another reason. I'm going to make it shorter so more people can go. the last two cruises have been 7 days, and you know, as you travel, 7 days is really 10 by the time you take in. You got to be there the day before the cruise, you know, and take off work and blah blah blah. So I think our cruise numbers are going to grow quite significantly by giving people time to plan and making it shorter. So I will hopefully be announcing something. I'm going to announce it soon, like in the next month or two, if we can line everything up.
Okay.
So yeah,
Oh,
so there's
well, see, the thing that we do on this show, right? Like the last question that I usually ask is, tell us something that nobody else knows.
mm, okay, tell you something nobody else knows.
Yeah.
Um, oh gosh. I'm one of those guys that puts everything out there. So even telling you guys that I'm not wearing any underwear right now, people know people know that I don't really wear underwear. So there's that. Um,
Okay.
yeah, I guess we could go with that. You didn't know I was doing that now.
I did
Yeah.
not.
I have yeah, I don't know. What can I tell you something you don't know? I'm very insecure. Um
Okay.
I'm yeah, and most people probably wouldn't think that because I put myself out there, but that's how I overcompensate. You know, I've got to feel comfortable in my surroundings. So I
No,
would say
I understand that as a DJ, I'm the same way. I'm the same way. It's like, okay, I need a shot. I need a couple of shots to get myself good so I can do this and work this crowd. So I get it. I get
right.
it.
And that's the thing. It's like if like right now we can talk, blah blah blah. Oh, I seem really outgoing and energetic, which I am, but you got to get to know me first and I got to feel comfortable first. If you put me in a room full of people, it's going to be hard for me to talk to
Got
anyone break the ice. So but yeah, so I have that the honeymoon night song. I put it out, but I didn't put it out. I really just kind of put it out. The video, I just put it out. I didn't promote it at all because I the whole reason I recorded the song was I wanted to give it to my wife for Valentine's Day.
Oh,
And
that's so sweet.
then Valentine's Day came and I completely forgot. I forgot because we shot the video so long ago that I
Yeah.
forgot I had it. And so I'm like, oh my God. So I had to email the director, hey, can you send me the video? I can't seem to find it. I'm scrambling to put it up. So I put it up. But it's a beautiful song. It's a beautiful song. I love that song. I love the story, how it goes from when you met to 20 years later to where we are now.
Hmm.
And it can be sung at just about any wedding. That's what I really like about it. I wanted a Commodore's like Easy Like Sunday Morning vibe mixed with a Bruno Mars kind of vibe as well. So yeah, that's where that
I
song came
mean, I like it. I saw the video. I was like, oh my God, this is like
from. Thank
adorable. Like, what is this? You know what I mean?
you.
I
Yeah.
absolutely love it. And then of course I like New York vibe because I'm from New York.
My guys, yeah, my boys were in that, and I actually flew back to New York for, I don't remember what I was there for, but I was like, guys, I'm gonna be in New York next week. Can we get together and just shoot a video? Like, okay, who's gonna shoot it? I'm like, I'll shoot the goddamn thing on my iPhone. I don't care. We got to get something. So we shot that on my iPhone, and it came out. I'm really proud of it. I got to thank Dee, Nitty's girl, for helping us to shoot the video, to get the footage of the four of us and everything. And I came home, I edited it. I was like, let's go. Here it is. And people really respond to that song. So it's doing well. That song's done really well for us.
So aside from the cruise in 2025, are we to see you on a show and concert, anything like that coming up?
I actually have two shows next week. They're both here in Kansas though. Right now. And then that's kind of all I have booked right now. I'm gonna be trying to do some more things in the fall. My wife and I started a company when we got back here in Kansas, and it's doing well. It takes a lot of work though to run your own company.
Yeah.
And it's called Slumber Glamp. And if you guys check out www.slumber glamp and you're in the area, you can hire us. We set up these teepees for kids and decorate them, and for adults now too. But that's not my music. So yeah, so I've got that. I'm actually supposed to play the piano for a song for a, you know what a quinceañera is? I'm sure you do.
Yeah, of course.
So I've been asked to do a song for that, and I've been looking at daddy daughter songs,
Yeah.
and I can't find one that's not doesn't end up talking about getting married. Like you're like it's more of a wedding song for dance for them. So I decided I'm gonna write one.
Thank you so much for being on my show. I appreciate you. We got to do this again.
I would love to.
Yeah, I'm gonna have you on my other show, but
Perfect.
definitely. So you guys already know, hit your girl up for On the Way to Famous. Let me know any other celebrities that you want me to talk to. And until next time, stay safe, stay humble, and as always, lift up your arms with me. Come on, stay fabulous. You gotta say it with the L.
Oh, flabulous.
Yes,
Flabulous. Can we do it one more? Flabulous.
yes, yes. Oh my God, you're awesome. Thank you
Gosh, now
so
I'm
much.
wondering, like, hey, am I sure?
I remember those commercials, boy. Don't play.
I'm sure. I'm good.